Al and Erotica begin a daily practice of yoga in the morning, and then a breakfast, and then some sort of walk or exercise, and then a luncheon at a vegan restaurant, and then in the afternoon they begin the practice of. You need to look this up as well as the Brian Greene. If you look into Tibetan yoga practices, tantric yoga, the the practice of tantric yoga, if you it's symbolized by a man and a woman in sexual embrace. Uh, the, the man, the woman represents wisdom, the man represents compassion, and the woman is symbolized by a bell, and often this statuary is fixed as a handle to a large bell that can be picked up and rang. And then the man's compassion is represented by lightning, like lightning strikes the bell and causes it to ring. And this has a metaphor or corollary, or however you want to think about it, when the human orgasm, where the man's orgasm is like a lightning bolt and the woman's response is like a ringing bell, and her multiple orgasms ringing like the continuing sound of the bell, gradually diminishing over time. Uh, it's a reverence for that sexual activity that actually is the birth of mankind. That's very sacred in the sense that all of us started with such an act, and it's a combination of wisdom and compassion. And the practice of tantric yoga is where you engage in this sexual embrace to the point where you don't go through the peak and the avalanche on the other side. Uh, Maybe some men you can the the orgasm is often so intense that the man can pass out and go into a refractory period, and the woman ends up energizing after that. Uh, but the tantric yoga practice is where you don't go up to that peak and waterfall afterwards. You go up to that peak and hold it at that peak and practice holding it for longer and longer periods. And that's what Al and Adradika are engaged in, that practice of unifying their sexual energies, very emotionally laden, very rich in sensory, uh, and in a sensory input, a sensory memory. So naturally, they have to be in good physical shape for that, and that's why they practice yoga themselves together in their room in the morning, and then have the nutritious breakfast, a walk on the beach for exercise, breathing, and then a lunch, and then the afternoon. You could once think of afternoon delight, but their afternoon practice of tantric yoga. And think for a minute, if you practice that, where you're unifying the sexual orgasmic experience, that's the foundation for becoming telepathic. If I can share so much in the woman's orgasm and stay there in her delight, and she can exchange my experience in the orgasm, it's truly shared to the point where it's mutually enjoyed. The same experience enjoyed together, unified, um, in in the in the reference I did with Brian Greene's rewiring the brain. They refer to that as immersion, where you're so involved in the experience that you lose track of time, you lose track of yourself. If you've ever engaged in the kids in a video game where they get so entranced in the game, or perhaps you played a musical instrument to the point where you get so entranced that you lose notion of whatever's going. And I myself in painting, like watercolors, I'll be at the paper with my watercolors for I think 20 minutes, but then I look at the clock and 2 hours have passed. That's the idea of mental immersion. Now, if you can take that concept and apply it to the sexual embrace and the mutual experience simultaneously of the orgasm, and then holding at that peak for gradually more extended periods of time, you get to the point where it's a natural telepathy. You're sharing the experience that you know. You think that sex takes place in the but it really the sex takes place in the brain. So if you mutually share that experience to the point that it's neither his nor yours, but it's ours, then that's a beginning of the path towards mental telepathy. Thank you for listening in today. It's been a delight sharing this with you, and a lot of what I say is true, and some is not so true, or not yet true, but I have to leave it to you to do your own searching, and find out what I'm saying, and and find out the truth. Thank you for listening in today. Bye bye.